The continent of Doqi was split apart? Hearing the boy's narration, Xiao found it almost unbelievable. He struggled to imagine what kind of unimaginable power could break a lower dimension into hundreds of fragmented worlds. To his shock, the continent of Doqi, where he had grown up, turned out to be just one of these many fragments. Doesn't that mean there are nearly 500 other worlds like the continent of Doqi? Ha, not all fragments are at the same level as yours, the boy said with a faint smile, seemingly reading Xiao thoughts. Among these 470-plus fragments, the majority are lower-tier lower dimensions, spanning only tens of thousands of miles. In such worlds, a Xun'er would be at the peak of power. About half of the remaining fragments are mid-tier lower dimensions, each spanning hundreds of thousands of miles, where the strongest individuals only reach the Dosheng level. Then there are the high-tier lower dimensions like yours. There are over 40 such fragments. In terms of size, the continent of Doqi ranks 7th among them. Upon hearing this, Xiao took a deep breath. If all the fragmented worlds were as vast as the continent of Doqi, the original continent must have been hundreds of times larger than it was now. The thought that he had spent decades training in just one small fragment of it was difficult to accept. But, as it turned out, not all fragments were that large. How big is the largest fragment? Xiao asked. The largest fragment is 10 times the size of your world. The second largest is 6 times bigger, and the third is 3.5 times larger, the boy replied. Does that mean there are others in these fragmented worlds, like me, who have broken through the dimensional shackles and arrived in the Great Thousand Worlds? Xiao asked. However, the boy shook his head at Xiao question. To date, only individuals from your fragment have managed to break the shackles. And even that was a matter of luck? Why is that? Xiao pressed. When the Dragon Emperor separated the original continent of Doqi, he left a trace of source energy in each fragment. This source energy is only useful for those attempting to break into the Do-D realm. Among the 430 fragments that didn't reach the high-tier lower dimension level, hope was lost entirely because, for them, reaching even the Dosheng level was a near impossibility. Of the remaining 40-plus fragments, over 20 have peak power levels at just the 9-star Dosheng stage. Even if they had access to source energy, they wouldn't be able to use it. Ultimately, only 16 fragments have the potential to produce Do-D powerhouses. Out of these, 5 have already lost their Do-D powerhouses. Lost? Xiao was momentarily stunned. Do-D powerhouses tend to emerge in pairs and often end up fighting each other. In those 5 fragments, 6 Do-D powerhouses perished in battles that resulted in mutual destruction. In one fragment, a Do-D killed their opponent but suffered such severe injuries that they were killed by several Doshengs working together. In another fragment, the circumstances were unique. Instead of the usual survival of the fittest dynamic, the 2 Do-D powerhouses in that world were lovers. Through dual cultivation, they advanced together to the Do-D level. However, they never realized the existence of other worlds beyond their own. In a grand, self-sacrificing gesture, they transformed their immense power into vast and boundless energy, enriching their world and making it more prosperous. But their act of selflessness cut off their world's future, a foolish decision in the grand scheme of things. Both Xiao and Long Yuan were left speechless by this explanation. Worlds like these fragmented ones truly existed. Why didn't you intervene? Long Yuan asked. If these worlds could have been saved and their Do-D powerhouses brought to the Great Thousand Worlds, the mysteries surrounding the Emperor Alliance might have been resolved long ago. I wanted to, the boy replied, but the Dragon Emperor sealed me within this world. For thousands of years, I could only watch the development of these worlds without the ability to interfere. Moreover, it's in the nature of a dimension's embryo to avoid interfering with its own development. What about the remaining 11 fragments capable of producing Do-D powerhouses? Xiao asked. Let's discuss them based on their sizes, the boy said. There are things about some of them even I don't know. To simplify, let's rank the 16 fragments with the potential to produce Do-Dis from the largest to the smallest, calling them the first world to the 16th world. The first world is the largest, spanning over 10 million miles and rivaling a super lower dimension. The continent of Doqi ranks 7th in size. However, I usually rank the fragments by their locations, which places your fragment at 140th. For now, we'll stick to size. The 5 self-destructive fragments I mentioned are the 16th, 12th, 11th, 6th, and 3rd worlds. Of the remaining 11 fragments, the 15th, 14th, 13th, 10th, 9th, 8th, and 5th worlds have yet to produce Do-D powerhouses. In these 7 worlds, resource wars have been far more brutal than the Soul Clan war you experienced on the continent of Doqi. The 5th world, for example, possesses enough source energy to produce 4 Do-D powerhouses. Yet due to constant wars, thousands of Do-Shangs have been born, but not a single Do-D. No one has even come close to attempting a breakthrough. The other worlds fare no better. While some have tried to break into the Do-D realm, the intense competition for source energy has left it depleted, resulting in only a handful of quasi-Do-Dis. Individuals half a step into the Do-D realm. Has the 4th, 2nd, and 1st worlds already produced Do-D powerhouses? Xiao asked. Indeed, the young man replied. In the 4th world, there are 6 Do-D powerhouses. The 2nd world has 10, and the 1st world has the most, a total of 17. The strongest among them has even reached the 7-star Do-D level. If he manages to break the shackles and ascend to the great 1,000 worlds, transforming his spiritual energy, he would become a 7th grade supreme. Based on my observations, he has the talent to reach the level of figures like Emperor Xiao or the Pill Emperor from the past. Hiss. Xiao drew in a sharp breath, immediately asking, "Then why haven't they broken the shackles to ascend to the great 1,000 worlds?" "I don't know." The young man shook his head. "I've studied this strange phenomenon myself, but I couldn't find an answer. So far, the only ones who have truly broken the dimensional shackles and reached the great 1,000 worlds are the fusion flame from thousands of years ago, you, and the other 4 Do-D you brought along." "That is indeed peculiar," Long Yuan said with a puzzled expression. "Perhaps only the Great 1,000 Alliance could have an answer to this question." "This is everything you wanted to know about the continent of Doqi," the young man said. "Is it possible for these worlds to merge again?" Xiao asked. If the Dragon Emperor could split the continent of Doqi using the power of the dimensional embryo, then someone equally powerful who also wields the dimensional embryo could certainly merge them back together, the young man explained. Of course, piecing together a broken mirror is far more difficult than shattering it. If it's only at the 2nd level of mastery like the Dragon Emperor, it would be nearly impossible. And what about a 3rd level fusion? At the level where oneself is the dimension and the dimension is oneself, merging those fragmented worlds would be as simple as moving one's own body, the young man replied. Hearing this, Xiao nodded. If the continent of Doqi could truly be reunited, he would attempt to fuse with the dimensional embryo. He was eager to witness the grandeur of the complete continent of Doqi. By the way, the doja we saw on that stele earlier, who was that? Xiao suddenly recalled a previous question. The doja was a unique existence defined by the Dragon Emperor for the continent of Doqi, the young man replied. It was an idea he conceived when he first mastered the dimensional embryo. At that time, he had not yet discovered the Great 1,000 Worlds. As the most powerful being on the continent of Doqi, the Dragon Emperor envisioned an even greater existence. This involved refining and merging all the heavenly flames in the world, harnessing all the forces of thunder and lightning, and balancing them with the flames. Finally, he would merge with the dimensional embryo and transform himself into the core of the continent of Doqi. With these 3 conditions met, this being would lead all life on the continent of Doqi in a conquest of other worlds until all dimensions submitted to the continent of Doqi. This was the doja. Xiao and Long Yuan exchanged glances. The Dragon Emperor's vision and ambition were truly staggering. At the same time, Xiao couldn't help but feel a deep respect for the Dragon Emperor. Such a person, who carried the fate of the world in his heart, was indeed a true king. However, the young man added, even though the Dragon Emperor mastered all the heavenly flames and controlled all the forces of thunder and lightning, he never reached the 3rd level of integration with me. Therefore, he wasn't a true doja. What likely frustrated him the most, however, was the fall of the Emperor Alliance. The Doja he envisioned was supposed to be invincible, crushing any obstacle in its path. After conquering the continent of Dochi, he intended to take the relic continent of the Great Thousand Worlds. If successful, I suspect he would have challenged the ancient races of the Great Thousand Worlds next. But he didn't anticipate encountering the extraterrestrial evil clan on the relic continent. That was the end of the Dragon Emperor's dream of the Doja, leaving behind only an unfulfilled aspiration. "Let's go and see the Dragon Emperor's final wish," the young man suddenly said, turning his gaze to the steels behind them. Xiao Yin and Long Yuan both rose to their feet. As they followed the young man past rows of steels, a massive, prominent stele stood before them, inscribed with descriptions of the Doja. "All the steles here, except for this one, were erected by me. Who does this stone tablet belong to?" Behind them, Xiao Yin and Long Yuan gradually flew closer. Staring at the towering tablet, they remarked, though Xiao Yin had already sensed that the demonic energy surging beneath it seemed far more terrifying than in other areas. "It was erected by the Dragon Emperor himself," the youth replied, then pointed at the ground below the tablet. "Beneath this lies the suppression of 2 Earth sovereigns of the extraterritorial evil clan." Long Yuan's gaze narrowed slightly at this revelation. It seemed that the last 3 Earth sovereigns were indeed all dealt with by his father alone. The youth raised his hand gently and placed it on the stone tablet, speaking calmly. "Within this stone tablet lies something the Dragon Emperor left behind." This statement left Xiao Yin and Long Yuan stunned once more. Something left behind by the Dragon Emperor? Wasn't it supposed to be the dimension embryo? What else did my father leave behind? Long Yuan asked hastily. "It is his great aspiration," the youth answered. He hoped that someone would one day inherit the Doja's will and accomplish what he could not. The Dragon Emperor's aspiration was now clear, to conquer whatever lay before him. Countless lower dimensions, the relic continent, and even the Great Thousand Worlds and the extraterritorial evil clan were all part of his vision. If such news were to spread across the Great Thousand Worlds, it would surely provoke ridicule from many sects and forces. The ancient races might even scoff at it entirely. After all, in their eyes, the Emperor Alliance led by the Dragon Emperor was no more significant than ants, easily crushed. But the Dragon Emperor remained steadfast, fully aware that his ambition would leave him battered and scarred. Yet he rose time and again, determined to one day stand above all living beings in every world. This seemingly unattainable goal was precisely why Xiao Yin admired him. "How can we obtain what the Dragon Emperor left behind?" Xiao Yin asked. "If you take it, the 2 Earth sovereigns sealed below will likely be released as well," the youth replied. "And I believe the Dragon Emperor hoped that whoever claims his legacy will also inherit his aspiration. Tell me, is there anyone who can inherit his will?" The youth's gaze rested on the massive stone tablet as he directed his calm words toward Xiao Yin. "Or perhaps, Xiao Yin, are you willing to take up the Dragon Emperor's aspiration?" Long Yuan, too, looked toward Xiao Yin. Due to his diluted bloodline, he could no longer truly resonate with the dimension embryo and could at most control it preliminarily, just as his father, the Dragon Emperor, once did. Thus, whether it was fusing with the dimension embryo or inheriting the Dragon Emperor's will, the task now fell solely to Xiao Yin. And as a prodigious young talent, Xiao Yin was undoubtedly the ideal candidate. "If you can fulfill my father's ambition, the primordial ancient dragon clan will be at your command," Long Yuan said to Xiao Yin. Hearing Long Yuan's words, Xiao Yin glanced at the smiling youth representing the dimension embryo. A wry smile crossed his face. Ever since encountering the dimension embryo, he seemed perpetually at its mercy, first chosen as its fusion candidate, and now presented with the Dragon Emperor's grand aspiration. This so-called aspiration was no small feat, forget the Great Thousand Worlds. Even conquering one of its top 10 supercontinents would be an almost insurmountable challenge, not to mention the extraterritorial evil clan. This wasn't merely about becoming the strongest. It was a mission far beyond imagination. It all felt too distant. Yet, for some reason, Xiao Yin couldn't help but feel a flicker of interest. After all, his ultimate goal was to reach the pinnacle. Actually, given the current special circumstances, The Dragon Emperor's aspiration isn't at its most difficult stage. At least not initially, the youth remarked. Special circumstances? Xiao asked. The lower dimensions are currently locked in heated battles with the Extraterrestrial Evil Clan. These clan's branches have been attacking the lower dimensions with almost maddened fervor. Over the years, countless lower dimensions have fallen to their invasions, leaving untold suffering in their wake, the youth explained. The Dragon Emperor eventually shattered the continent of Do-Chi into countless fragment worlds. I believe it was to prevent the continent of Do-Chi from becoming a target. In the lower dimensions, locating a specific fragment world is no easy feat even with thousands of demon branches dispatched. They can scarcely locate 10 lower dimensions in a year. However, once discovered, such worlds are invariably slaughtered to the last. The larger the world, the easier it is to detect. By dispersing the continent of Do-Chi and sealing me in the Great Thousand Worlds, the Dragon Emperor created 2 layers of protection. Over the past 10,000 years, not a single fragment world has fallen to the Extraterrestrial Evil Clan. Under such circumstances, a single lower dimension is unable to contend with the Extraterrestrial Evil Clan alone. Therefore, they must join forces to resist. The alliances in the Great Thousand Worlds formed by strong individuals from lower dimensions were born this way, Long Yuan added. Are you suggesting that we establish a new alliance, unite many lower dimensions, and launch a campaign against the Extraterrestrial Evil Clan, using this as a way to elevate the continent of Do-Chi's status among the lower dimensions? Xiao finally understood the intentions of the youth and Long Yuan. This strategy indeed had some feasibility, though it was equally challenging. After all, Xiao had seen an alliance of lower dimensions before, namely the Western Heaven Palace. To develop to the level of the Western Heaven Palace, with several heavenly supreme experts as its cornerstone, was no small feat. However, Xiao didn't see it as hopeless. If he could merge all the fragmented worlds of the continent of Do-Chi, unite the primordial ancient dragon clan on the relic continent, recruit a few powerhouses from the Great Thousand Worlds, and finally retrieve the Tuashi ancient Emperor Flame from the Fire Spirit clan, such a formidable alliance might become a reality. I will do my best, Xiao said, his confidence soaring as the path ahead became clearer. The youth observed Xiao sudden burst of confidence, and a faint smile curved his lips. He could guess some of Xiao calculations. While the plan still had numerous unresolved factors, it at least provided a direction. As for the motivation, that would depend on Xiao himself. Leave your father's relic to me, and I will handle the 2 Earth Sovereigns, Long Yuan said. Though no energy surged around him, the sheer force he could unleash would terrify any Earth's supreme expert. Then let's retrieve what the Dragon Emperor left behind, the youth said. He placed his hand on the stone tablet, and under the watchful gaze of Xiao and Long Yuan, a mysterious light began to emanate from his palm. The energy was gentle yet carried the authority of the entire realm. It was the power of the dimensional embryo. Xiao eyes stayed on the stone tablet, his curiosity piqued about what the Dragon Emperor had left behind. The ethereal light spread from the youth's palm, enveloping the massive stone tablet. Within moments, the colossal tablet, thousands of feet tall, was entirely shrouded. Under the influence of this light, Xiao saw the enormous stone tablet beginning to turn illusory. This was the erasing ability of the dimensional embryo. Within its control, all matter and energy could be manipulated, even living beings, unless they were strong enough to rival an entire dimension. Should we release the spaces I've devoured? A low voice echoed in Xiao mind. It was the void swallowing flame. Since swallowing those spaces, I've noticed this world has become more fragile. It seems the size of a space is directly proportional to its stability. Releasing them might strengthen this dimension and prevent the Extraterrestrial Evil Clan from tearing it apart during their escape. All right, Xiao nodded, agreeing with the void-swallowing flame's reasoning. As the youth extracted the relic left by the Dragon Emperor, the void-swallowing flame outside this space began releasing the devoured spaces. The youth noticed this action, but merely smiled faintly. Rumble. As the stone tablet became increasingly illusory, the ground trembled violently. The suppressive force weakening allowed the extraterrestrial evil clan trapped beneath to prepare for their escape. The massive stone tablet grew fainter until, after a dozen breaths, it completely vanished. In its place was something that left Xiao Yin and Long Yuan momentarily stunned. A crimson flag about 10 feet long. The flag waved in the air, its deep red hue like congealed blood radiating an aura of battle. Dominating the flag was a single bold character. Do. Fight. Long Yuan stared in shock at the flag that had replaced the stone tablet. The relic left by his father was a flag. The ground beneath the monolith suddenly disintegrated and collapsed. A massive pillar of jet-black energy, towering thousands of meters high, erupted into the sky with an overwhelming aura of demonic oppression, heading straight toward the young dimensional embryo. These extraterrestrial evil demons had not forgotten their purpose from 10,000 years ago. They had originally aimed to annihilate the Emperor Alliance for the dimensional embryo of the continent of Do Chi. Now, with the embryo right before them, how could they not be tempted? Heh, Dragon Emperor, you scoundrel! You suppressed us for over 10,000 years, but in the end, you still fell. This dimensional embryo, I'll safeguard it for you. A chillingly mocking voice, laced with frost, swept across the heavens and earth from within the jet-black pillar. The massive black pillar, moving at incredible speed, transformed into a giant hand when it was less than 1,000 meters away from the young dimensional embryo, reaching directly to seize it. In such circumstances, how could a mere dimensional embryo resist? However, the young dimensional embryo remained composed. As the enormous hand closed in, a faint smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. With me here, how dare you act so wantonly? A thunderous roar, filled with anger, resounded across the land. In the next instant, an overwhelming radiance of purple-gold light swept across the sky. From within the light, an enormous purple-gold dragon claw emerged, piercing through the void and intercepting the oncoming black pillar, slamming it downward. Bang! The jet-black pillar, imbued with a corrosive power capable of instilling fear even in 7th-grade supreme beings, shattered effortlessly under the strike of the purple-gold dragon claw. Amidst the fragments of demonic energy, a battered figure emerged, a humanoid entity entirely composed of demonic liquid. This being had 3 heads and 6 arms, resembling an evil spirit Xun'er from hell. He was the emperor of the Erosion Evil Clan, ranked 43rd among the 6,000 evil clans, and a being of Earth Sovereign level. Whoosh! As Dragon Origin engaged the Earth Sovereign, Xiao Yin darted toward the red banner hovering midair at lightning speed. Yet, from the ground below, another massive black pillar shot upward, aimed directly at Xiao Yin. Seeing the incoming pillar, Xiao Yan's eyes flashed with icy determination. A smirk appeared on his lips as a brilliant flame erupted from his palm, quickly morphing into a dazzling fire dragon. The radiant fire dragon melted the void as it collided with the black pillar, causing the latter to disintegrate rapidly. An Earth Supreme? As the black pillar crumbled, a surprised voice emanated from the depths of the dark underground. At the same time, Xiao Yan's hand reached the red banner. However, as he grabbed it, his expression suddenly changed. A soul-impacting wave erupted from the banner, spreading through his palm and into his mind. Xiao Yan's body froze momentarily. This brief pause presented the perfect opportunity for the Earth Sovereign below. The boundless demonic energy formed a vast sea, condensing into a small demonic arrow barely a meter long. Its power was sufficient to annihilate any 9th-grade Supreme, and even an Earth Supreme would sustain injuries if struck. However, at that very moment, a dragon's roar echoed across the entire spatial realm. In that instant, the void within the realm froze, rendering the 2 Earth Sovereigns motionless. This overwhelming power, which froze space and exuded a sense of death, was the strength of a heavenly Supreme, far beyond their reach. As Dragon Origin immobilized the 2 Earth Sovereigns, he noticed something amiss with Xiao Yin. Glancing at the young dimensional embryo, the latter shrugged, clearly unaware of what was happening. Suspended in midair, Xiao Yan's body remained still, while his consciousness entered a boundless world of darkness. Within the infinite darkness, Xiao Yin walked forward, his gaze fixed ahead. There, a figure bathed in radiant dark gold light stood brilliantly. The man wore a black dragon robe, his hair a striking golden hue. He was the Dragon Emperor ancestor of the primordial ancient dragon clan. This was Xiao Yan's instinct. He believed that the faint remnant of a divine soul imprint on the red banner was left behind by the Dragon Emperor. Acting on this intuition, Xiao Yan immediately knelt on one knee before the man clad in a black dragon robe. Junior Xiao Yan pays respects to the Dragon Emperor ancestor. Xiao Yan said, "The bloodline power within you belongs to the Xiao clan," the Dragon Emperor remarked. "You have taken my Do banner." "Is it that red banner?" Xiao Yan asked. "Do you know of the Doja?" the Dragon Emperor inquired. "I've already heard about it at the Dimension Embryo," Xiao Yan replied. "Then, are you willing to inherit my will and become a Doja?" the Dragon Emperor asked. "I will do my best," Xiao Yan responded. "I don't want your best," the Dragon Emperor retorted. "Either you are willing, or the will of the Doja will dissipate into the heavens and earth." Hearing this, Xiao Yan was momentarily stunned. The Dragon Emperor's dedication to the grand vision of the Doja was far from ordinary. "My remnant soul is about to dissipate," the Dragon Emperor continued. "I'll ask one final time. Are you willing to inherit my will and become a Doja?" A determined glint appeared in Xiao Yan's eyes. This time, his answer was resolute. "I am willing." "Good. Ha ha ha. A Doja. Ha ha ha." The Dragon Emperor laughed heartily. "Since you are willing to become a Doja, I have one more thing for you to do. Please give your command, Dragon Emperor ancestor." Xiao Yan replied. "I will complete it without fail." Hearing Xiao Yan's answer, the Dragon Emperor raised his hand, which was gradually becoming illusory. His voice, filled with madness, reverberated through the air. "Take my Do banner and plant it in the ancestral land of the extraterrestrial evil clan. Kill anyone who stands in your way." The Dragon Emperor's wild laughter echoed as his figure completely dissipated. The boundless darkness of the world also faded away. In the midair of the spatial realm, Xiao Yan's eyes slowly opened. A deep, resonant voice stirred within his heart.